Hey everyone, so it's been a while since my last Death Note video. The last one I did was in August 2017, doing a critical analysis on why we should give Netflix a chance with their live action Death Note adaptation, and boy was I wrong. And we all know by now it was kinda meh, and it destroyed all my hopes with the direction that they went with the story. And we can all remember that hilarious scene when Light meets Ryuk, right? I literally laughed out loud when it happened. Anyways, I'm assuming most of you that have clicked on the video have seen Death Note, right? So spoiler warning, 3, 2, 1. Death Note is one of my favorite anime of all time. The question that has always popped into my mind after watching the ending is what happened after Light Yagami perished? What happened to Nair, the society and the police force that tackled and beat the infamous Kira that we knew? In addition, what happened to the Death Note or Ryuk? So after the events that we all know and love at the end of Death Note, most of us fans are not aware that a one-shot manga was created by Sugumi Ohba, produced 2 years after the end of the actual Death Note anime we know and love, as this would allow Sugumi the flexibility to gather a various curious audience to read this one-shot to understand what really happened after Light perished and the name Kira lived on as we saw in the manga. Even till this day, we're kinda baffled as to where and what Light Yagami had ended up as. We even explained this in our critical analysis video I created a year ago. Check that out if you haven't, if you want to understand a bit more about the loophole behind Light Yagami's death. Did he turn into a Shinigami or not? Or did he perish and go into mute? However, the motive behind Ohba creating a follow-up to such a mysterious series was to clarify a lot of things that most Death Note fanatics have been arguing about. But a little cautioning is that it doesn't dwell that deep into the situation behind Light Yagami converting into a Shinigami, but in fact covers the topic behind Nair's next challenge after beating Light. Although this one-shot manga doesn't really explain the full length of where Light is, it does give off the feeling as though it's a spin-off continuation of Death Note, as it implies a whole new challenge, especially with Nair basically being the new L as well as holding on to his teachings. So this one shot takes place 9 years after L's death and 3 years after Light's death, which is not too far down the timeline. Ohba did this intentionally as the havoc of Kira will still be in the atmosphere, and it even states many cults have opened up to the false god that they know as Kira and they worship him. The impact behind this has caused a lot of chaos for the Japanese government and also for Nair, but after the 3-year interval between Light's death and another so-called Kira that had appeared in the universe, who they have also acquired the Death Note somehow. Anyways, this Kira is known as C Kira or Cheap Kira by Nair because he wouldn't want anyone to disrespect the work of the actual Kira and L. The victims behind this cheap Kira are not what you guys really think, as Light would usually target serial killers and dictators and also people who are trying to uncover the truth behind his Jekyll and Hyde persona, of course. So Cheap Kira's targets were the elderly who are in pain and sick, and he saw it as if he is revealing their pain. Nair's ultimatum behind all of this is that Cheap Kira cannot be anyone young, but in fact had to be someone elderly. Nair's plan is to follow in the same footpath as L, using his method to make a fake L go public and to see if they get killed, similar to how Light killed the fake L during a press conference in the earlier chapters of the manga. This of course allowing Ohba to pay homage to the earlier strategies of L. Following up this conversation, it turns to Ryuk in the Shinigami realm, but Ryuk and the rest of the Shinigamis had stopped giving out human death notes, whereas Ryuk comes to the conclusion that another Shinigami by the name of Midora was still planting out death notes across the human realm. Midora is a female Shinigami, and it's also stated that Midora had only got another death note from the Shinigami King by bribing him by giving him 13 apples to have access to a second death note Note, which is quite unusual. Along with this extra chaos in the infamous Sakura TV, who played a huge part in worshipping the original Kira, set up another live broadcast for the rebirth of Kira, as this catches the attentions of the investigators that worked on uncovering Light as Kira. According to the broadcast, only people over 60 were being killed by the cheap Kira, and also confirms that Japan went from number 1 on the list of life expectancy to number 6, showing the huge impact Kira had during his years of killing many lives. A riot kicks off during the broadcast because of cheap Kira only killing those over 60, but he suddenly kills all the people wanting to die during their weird riot. Straight after this disturbing broadcast, which was aired all over Japan, Nier kicks in his strategy of making a public announcement as L, but he clears it all out that this is a false Kira and it is not the original Kira that we know as Light Yagami. He confirms that it is someone else using the same methods as he once did. Nier exposing the fake Kira had caused his Death Note Shinigami, who was known as Midora, to return to the Shinigami realm. Her conversation with Ryuk was that she had thought it had gotten interesting once he had started killing people on live TV, but after 3 days he started to look pale and began writing his own name in the Death Note. Ryuk then quotes Light Yagami's words of "the humans cannot be weak. In order for a human to use the Death Note, they need to have strong spiritual strength and conviction," as the one shot ends in Light Yagami's words and on his premise. So what do we learn from Death Note chapter 109? This one shot was first published in Weekly Shonen Jump in November 2008 to advertise for the L Change the World movie, which came out in the same month. So clearly it was promotional material, but it's still considered canon in some way since the original writer of Death Note made it. It reveals to us that Kira's name still lives on and is worshipped even 3 years after Light Yagami's death. It gives us more details on the Shinigami King in the Shinigami realm, in which he is open to bribery and supposedly controls all the Death Notes we see in the anime, as it is stated before that all the Shinigamis call him Old Man and they have to return their Death Notes to him, and he controls all of them. So since a new Shinigami named Midora, this is a female Shinigami, she was able to bribe the king by giving him 13 apples for a new Death Note to throw into Earth. We also find out more details about L's character, where L admits that figuring out difficult cases was just a hobby of his and it wasn't justice at all. Nier also says that he had come up to admire L later on in his life as he grows up. To be honest, this chapter can be seen as canon, since the chapter was later republished for the first time in Japanese in the Death Note all-in-one volume released in 2016, which means the creators of Death Note must want new readers to know what happened after Light Yagami's death, right? So whether or not you believe the end of Death Note wasn't satisfying at all, I guess you can say the sacrifice of Light Yagami and L were placed by Oba so that the progression of this manga can have various alternative side stories to open to the viewer's discretion of what they make out of it. We can make our own interpretation of the show. This plot wasn't intended to reveal the afterlife of Light Yagami, but maybe to show how much of a genius Light was, to establish the role of Kira and the moral taboo of whether or not he was doing the right thing. It develops a perfect cat-mouse chase between him and the police, and it was made a perfect story, right? So in my opinion, in some ways, Light's peak kinda ascended the likes of even Ryuk at some point, even if you Shinigami. His intelligence and role of playing a living death god with strategical planning caused the worship of Kira in the first place. That's why Ryuk states himself that Light is special and it was fun working with him. Maybe with this spin-off one-shot chapter 109, the creator of Death Note is trying to say there could be no one in the Death Note universe that could replicate what Light Yagami had done. This is what leads to L's, Ryuk and Nier's utmost respect for him. Oba's one-shot or Death Note chapter 109 should be conceived as a simple reminder to certain fans that the impact of Kira and how one's ideology can be interpreted in many ways to the rest of the world. Oba stated himself, in fact, when he was asked about Death Note on the theory of good and evil or ideological meanings to it, and his response was, "Not at all. What Nier said at the end, the justice is what each people make up on their own." And in his opinion, that's most close to what he thinks. And I know such a philosophical debate is something that might draw interest, but that is going to end up ideological and a political debate. So he decided that Death Note should stay away far from this. It's a very risky subject to touch on and it won't be a good topic for a manga anyway, in his own words. The creator of Death Note feels like there isn't a particular theme to the series. In fact, what they wanted to portray to us was that humans are destined to die someday and we can never come back to life ever again, so we must do our best while we are alive. And they have stated this in interviews themselves. The one-shot entails the fact that this so-called cheap Kira only managed to do a fraction of what Light Yagami had achieved as Kira before he threw the towel in. As stated by Midora, the new Shinigami, this cheap Kira began to lose his mind, and he wasn't as strong as Light, thus leading him to his psychotic behavior and eventually writing his own name down in the Death Note. So one theory could be is that Light Yagami was the only successful user of the Death Note, hence why Kira is worshipped even after death due to its impact and message is sent out to the world. So to sum up the whole manga chapter, it overall gives us a few hints of what may be happening after Light's death, but it also opens up the opportunity to a sequel. Like, we never know. Even Code Geass, which is something has never been relevant, after 10 years after what happened to Lelouch and its ending, anything seems to be possible when there is enough demand or ideas flowing around in the anime industry. So one day in 10 years we might see a Death Note sequel. Anyways guys, be sure to let me know your opinion as always in the comment section below. Follow us on social media like Instagram, and I'll see you guys next time.